Life in New Zealand. Beautiful women, $700 budget, and the world's purest country.
$700. That's all I had. And somehow, I lived an entire month like I was rich, not in money, but in freedom. The way we work, the way we live, even what we chase. It's called New Zealand. And if you stick around till the end, you might just start wondering, why isn't the rest of the world living like this? It's not loud. It's not flashy. But it's the kind of place that changes you without asking for anything in return. People are kind. A kind of quiet connection to people, to nature, and strangely, to myself. I'd wake up in a small town with no plans and end the day sitting on a porch with a stranger-turned friend, watching the sun dip behind the hills. No expectations, no rush. Just presence. Grocery prices in New Zealand are not the cheapest in the world, but if you shop smart, you can stay well within budget. Local markets, discount supermarkets like Pack and Save, and seasonal produce help you save. Many locals grow some of their own food or swap with neighbors. A basic weekly grocery bill can come out to around $35, $50, which adds up to $150 to $100 for the month. Cook your own meals, avoid packaged snacks, and you'll stay full and happy without spending a fortune. That kind of stillness changes you, and many towns offer bus passes for a low price. In rural areas, people rely more on bikes, walking, or shared rides. And here's a unique part of Kiwi life. Hitchhiking is still common and fairly safe. Many travelers and even locals use it to get around. It is not unusual to see someone with a backpack and a cardboard sign on the side of the road. So whether you're spending on a monthly bus pass or just catching a ride, transport doesn't have to eat into your budget. They help without expecting anything. How stripped down life can still be full. It reminded me of what matters: fresh air, honest people, time to think, and room to breathe. That might sound simple, but in today's world, it's rare. They offer directions, ride shares, or even a hot meal without a second thought. It's not some marketing gimmick or tourist trap. It's just how life flows there. And once you get used to it, it feels wild to think you ever lived any other way. Clean skies, quiet mornings, people who smile with their eyes, and beauty that doesn't even try too hard. I'm talking about a country where strangers turn into friends, where the mountains actually whisper peace, and where life feels lighter. It's about how one country quietly invites you to live differently, and maybe more honestly. If you've ever felt burned out, disconnected, or just tired of the noise, keep watching. Because this isn't just another travel story. It has a look into a life that could feel more like yours than you'd expect. The biggest expense anywhere in the world is usually rent. In New Zealand, if you're staying in a big city like Auckland or Wellington, rent can be high. But there's a whole other side to the country. Smaller towns, rural areas, and shared housing options offer much more affordable places to stay. In many cases, you can rent a room in a shared house or stay in a homestay for around $100 to $300 a month. These places are often surrounded by beautiful nature, quiet roads, and friendly neighbors. If you're willing to live a little outside the tourist hotspots, your money stretches much further. That's fair. The country became globally famous thanks to those films. But that image barely scratches the surface. New Zealand isn't just a playground for backpackers and adventure seekers. When someone hears the name New Zealand, they often imagine it's too expensive to even think about living there. And yes, if you're staying in fancy hotels, eating out every day, and booking guided tours, it can cost a lot. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a simple, meaningful, and comfortable life, not luxury. And for that, $700 can go a long way if you know how to spend it. It's something much deeper. It's one of the few places on earth where freedom still feels real, where life slows down without making you feel left behind, and where peace isn't a luxury. It's the baseline. This place didn't just surprise me, it made me question everything. And yeah, it's real. Why New Zealand is not what you think. When most people think of New Zealand, their minds instantly jump to hobbits, fantasy movie scenes, and long hiking trails that stretch into nowhere. Let's start with something simple but shocking. New Zealand ranks #1 in the world for environmental health and ecosystem vitality, according to Yale's Environmental Performance Index. That means cleaner air, cleaner water, and less pollution than anywhere else on the planet. You can literally breathe easier here. The tap water is so pure in many towns that people refill bottles from natural springs. There's no heavy smog covering your morning walks, no traffic chaos making you hate the start of your day. And if you've ever lived in a noisy, crowded, stressful city, that kind of calm hits differently. But here is the part that really surprised me. It's not as expensive as everyone assumes. Don't get me wrong, if you're booking 5-star hotels and eating out every night in downtown Auckland, then sure, it adds up. But if you know how to live simply, and most New Zealanders do, you can stretch $700 a long way. I did it myself for a full month, and I wasn't just surviving, I was living well. I stayed in shared accommodation, cooked fresh meals, used public transport, and explored the country's natural beauty, most of which is completely free. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what's the catch? There isn't one, really. That's the strange part. It wasn't just the scenery or the budget that hooked me. It was something harder to explain. So when I say this place changed me, I'm not exaggerating. It made me see how little I really needed to feel happy. And that's why this video isn't just about landscapes and costs. Can you really live in New Zealand on $700? Let's talk about the part that surprises people the most, the money. Let's break it down. Next is food. Transport is another big part of the equation. But again, it depends on how you move around. Public transport in cities is decent. Now, what about fun? Most places make you pay for entertainment. I met a backpacker from Brazil who landed in New Zealand with just enough money for 3 weeks. He ended up staying for 6 months. How? He found a workforce day deal on a small organic farm. It's about choosing a slower life, finding joy in small things, stay in smaller towns. Be open to shared living. Learn to cook. It wouldn't be the mountains or the beaches. It would be the people. There is something about New Zealanders. You won't see people constantly chasing status or material things. The first thing you'll notice is how respectful it is. There's no pressure, no weird games. People here are direct, honest, and thoughtful. They're not in a rush to impress or win you over. If they like you, they'll simply say so. If they don't, they won't lead you on. It's refreshingly simple. Instead, you'll find a culture where simple joys, like barbecues with friends, quiet walks, or fishing on weekends, mean a lot. They know who they are and don't try to fit into fake beauty standards. You'll see women hiking, surfing, running businesses, working on farms, all with the same quiet confidence. They care more about being strong, kind, and real than looking perfect. And somehow, that makes them even more beautiful. That grounded lifestyle shows up in their personalities. You feel it when they talk. You see it in the way they treat others, not as competition, but as equals, or Kiwis as they rate proudly called. That feels different from anywhere else. They're calm, kind, and easy to talk to, and they don't try to impress you. Makeup is usually light or not worn at all. It's not because they don't care. It's because here, people see beauty in natural things. They admire health, confidence, and authenticity. That mindset makes social settings feel relaxed. You don't feel like you're being judged or compared. You can just be yourself. They don't need to. Their charm comes from being real. Take public transport. Say yes to unexpected chances. A local offering you a free ride, someone inviting you for dinner, or a farm asking for help in exchange for food. These aren't travel hacks. This is how people live here. It's real, and it's beautiful in its own quiet way. And being okay with simplicity. If you can adjust your mindset, the rewards are huge. You'll find more peace, more presence, and more genuine human connection than any 5-star resort can offer, helping out a few hours a day in exchange for food and a place to sleep. Another girl from Poland was studying in Christchurch. Whether it was the bus driver who gave me local tips with a smile, or the grocery store clerk who asked where I was from and genuinely cared, kindness here doesn't feel forced. It feels natural. Kiwis are welcoming without making a big deal about it. They have a strong sense of community and a relaxed attitude that makes you feel safe and accepted. She told me her monthly spending never went above $650. She shared a house with two flatmates, yes, and not just survive, actually live. You may not come back with designer bags or Instagram perfect brunch photos, but you'll return with something much better, memories that feel real, peace that stays with you, and a new understanding of what a good life can look like. Walk everywhere and learn to cook like a pro to save money in New Zealand. Nature is the entertainment, and it's free. He parked near lakes, forests, and beach campsites with no rent to pay. His biggest expense was internet data and the occasional gas refill. It's a little dry, sometimes cheeky, and always warm. They know how to laugh at themselves and don't take life too seriously. You'll often hear someone joke about the weather, the sheep, or how far everything is. It's not the kind of humor that's loud or flashy. It's soft, clever, and comes with a grin. That kind of lightheartedness makes conversations feel easy, even with people you just met. He told me, I've worked from Thailand, Portugal, Mexico, but nothing comes close to the peace I feel here. And it cost me less than I paid for one room back home. You've got beaches, mountains, lakes, rivers, forests, hot springs, and so many walking tracks that you need yours to finish them all. You don't need tickets or memberships. You just need a good pair of shoes and some curiosity. Even in towns and small cities, there are local events, community markets, open-air music nights, and public spaces that cost nothing. Entertainment here isn't about shopping malls and theme parks. It's about real experiences, watching a sunset, soaking in a thermal spring, or talking with someone by a fire. Now let's bring in some real people. Then there was a digital nomad from Canada who worked online and lived out of a campervan. Now, let's compare this to other countries. It is important to be honest too. This lifestyle isn't about shopping sprees or eating at restaurants every night. The trick is to be flexible. So, can you live in New Zealand on $700 a month? Where kindness meets beauty, the people of New Zealand. If I had to pick just one reason why New Zealand feels so special from the first day I arrived, I noticed it. Another thing that stands out is their humor. Kiwis are also very grounded. They live close to nature, value family time, and don't seem to care much for showing off. Now let's talk about something a lot of people ask about, dating in New Zealand. The women in New Zealand are especially impressive. They're confident without being arrogant. What's even more interesting is how natural everything feels. People don't dress to impress. They dress for comfort and weather. Dating apps exist here, sure, but many people still meet the old-fashioned way, through friends, events, or even just random chats in a cafe. The vibe is slower, more personal, and less focused on appearances. If you value deep connections and honest conversations, friendships here also feel easy and meaningful. They face natural disasters, economic ups and downs, and being far from the rest of the world. Their kindness isn't loud, their beauty isn't artificial, and their confidence comes from within. Whether you're a traveler passing through or someone thinking of staying longer, the lake is a soft shade of turquoise, almost glowing, thanks to tiny particles from nearby glaciers. This area is full of natural hot springs, geysers, and bubbling mud pools. The ground literally steams. The air smells a bit like sulfur, but you get used to it. People have come here for centuries to soak in the hot waters and let the minerals heal their skin, muscles, and minds. You'll see dolphins jumping beside boats, penguins waddling near the rocks, and seals sunbathing. Like they own the place, real silence. Not the kind you find in libraries or offices, but the kind that comes from open land, clear skies, and distant waves. Silence that feels full, not empty. It's not loud. It doesn't shout for your attention. It simply waits, open and honest, ready to help you feel whole again. And that kind of healing, the quiet kind, might be exactly what you didn't know you needed. That kind of silence has power. It gives you space to think, to breathe, to just be. You don't realize how noisy the world is until you spend time in a place like this. And once you've felt it, you crave it. If you're lucky, you might even spot a kiwi, the shy, flightless bird that New Zealand is famous for. It's hard to explain, but being around animals in their natural space, not in a zoo or a park, makes you feel more human somehow. You feel less alone. The feeling of sitting in a warm pool under the open sky, surrounded by ferns and birdsong, is hard to explain. It's simple, it's calming, and it feels like the earth is giving you a gentle hug. You don't need to climb every mountain or swim in every lake to feel its effect. Just being near it is enough. Sitting on a log by the river, walking through a quiet forest, or even lying on the grass under the stars, it works like medicine, but without the side effects. In spring, the area around it blooms with purple and pink lupins that stretch for miles. But the best part comes at night. Nature doesn't check your income or your passport. It just gives peace, clarity, beauty, without asking for anything back. You walk past red craters, emerald lakes, and steaming vents, with views that keep changing every hour. You could be driving along a random road and suddenly see a field full of sheep, with mountains in the background, or find a beach where the sand is golden and the water is crystal clear and no one else is around. You might sit on a hilltop and hear nothing but the wind and a distant bird. These quiet moments sneak up on you, and they stay with you long after you leave. It's not an easy walk, but it's one of those things that pushes your body while relaxing your mind. Every step feels like progress, not just on the trail, but in your thoughts too. You start to forget your worries. You stop checking the time, and somewhere along the way, your thoughts get quieter and you feel lighter. Lake Tekapo is one of the best places in the world to see stars. The sky is so dark and so clear, you feel like you're standing inside a galaxy. Shooting stars, the Milky Way, even distant planets, they all show up, quietly reminding you how small we are and how big the universe really is. It is the people who make New Zealand feel like home, even when you ray thousands of miles away from your own. Yet they stay calm, kind, and full of humor. They have this ability to make you feel like you belong, even if you've just arrived. That's rare, and it changes how you see people and yourself. People make time for each other. They invite you to their homes, cook for you, introduce you to their families. I met a couple in their 60s who hosted me for a meal just because I looked a bit lost. They told stories, gave me travel tips, and sent me off with homemade cookies. That kind of warmth sticks with you. You'll find dating in New Zealand a breath of fresh air. But it's not just about dating. There's a quiet strength in Kiwi people. So yes, the landscapes in New Zealand are stunning, but it's the people that truly make the country unforgettable. And then there are places that heal you. New Zealand falls into the second group. The nature here doesn't just make you say wow. It makes you stop, breathe, and feel something shift inside you. The quiet is real. The space is endless. And the beauty feels personal, like it's meant just for you. What's even more amazing is that it doesn't ask anything from you in return. It's just there, waiting, patient and peaceful. Nature that heals and doesn't ask for anything in return. Many people call it the most beautiful place in New Zealand, and it's easy to see why. Towering cliffs rise straight out of deep blue water. Waterfalls pour down like silver ribbons, and clouds hang low between the peaks. It's so quiet there, you can hear your own heartbeat. The water is calm, the air is fresh, and everything feels untouched, as if time itself decided to slow down. There are places in the world that impress you. Let's start with Milford Sound. Then there's Lake Tekapo. This place looks like it belongs in a painting. Rotorua brings something completely different. If you enjoy hiking, Tongariro Crossing is a must. It's a one-day trek through volcanic landscapes that seem straight out of another world. But nature in New Zealand isn't only found in famous spots. It's everywhere. The wildlife here also adds to the peace. And then there's the silence. One of the best parts of New Zealand's nature is that it doesn't ask you to do anything. And the best thing, it's all free. You don't need tickets or tour guides. So if you've been feeling tired, burned out, or disconnected, this land offers something rare, a reset button. The lifestyle that makes you pause. One of the most surprising things about life in New Zealand is how calm everything feels. It's not slow in a boring way. It's slow in a peaceful, intentional way. People take their time. Even rest time feels rushed. But in New Zealand, things are different. People make time to talk, to sit, to enjoy small things. You'll see someone stop mid-walk to admire the sky. New Zealand is full of walking tracks, and people use them not just to stay fit, but to feel grounded. These walks aren't competitive. In many countries, people avoid eye contact or rush through greetings. But in New Zealand, people genuinely want to talk. You can sit down at a bench, and someone might join you with a smile and a story. Coming from a busy city, I was used to constant noise and activity. At first, the silence felt strange. I kept checking my phone, waiting for something to happen. But slowly, I started to notice things. The sound of leaves in the wind, the way people smiled, the warmth in conversations. Because that peaceful rhythm doesn't just stay in New Zealand, it stays in you. I began to sleep better. I stopped worrying so much about time. A feeling of calm, quiet, and clarity that I hadn't felt in years. It came from something very simple, doing nothing. The people here understand the value of space, not just physical space, but mental space too. They don't try to fill every second of their lives. They take breaks. They spend time in nature. They understand that rest isn't something you earn. It is something you need to stay balanced. At first, I kept reaching for my phone, feeling like I should be doing something. But after a while, the silence stopped feeling empty. It started to feel full of space, thought, and peace. I began to notice how noisy my mind had been before, always jumping from one thing to the next. But in that quiet, my thoughts slowed down. I felt more present and more connected, not just to nature, but to myself. That might sound strange at first. Most of us are used to being busy all the time. We fill our days with tasks, screens, and noise. Even our free time is packed with activities. But in New Zealand, I learned that doing nothing isn't lazy, it's healing. And I realized how much noise I had carried with me, not just from the outside world, but from within. Locals love to ask where you're from, how you're liking the place, and what you've seen so far. And it doesn't feel forced. It feels honest. Tea with strangers might sound unusual, but here, it's quite normal. And these small moments often become your favorite memories. There's no rush to reach the end. She started chatting, and within minutes, she invited me to her home for afternoon tea. We sat on her porch, sipping tea with homemade biscuits, while she told me about her life, her garden, and her childhood in the same town. There was no rush, no awkwardness, just a calm, kind conversation. That one felt more real than entire days I'd spent running around back home. The goal isn't speed, it's presence. Walking in silence, hearing birds, feeling wind on your face. These things matter more than steps counted or calories burned. It invites you to slow down gently. And once you do, you start to see everything more clearly. You notice beauty in small things. That sometimes the best days are the ones where you do less but feel more. Whether it's fishing by a lake, hiking a quiet trail, sipping tea with someone new, or simply watching the sky change colors, this lifestyle reminds you that happiness doesn't have to be complicated. You listen better, you feel calmer, you start choosing presence over pressure. And often, at the end of a trail, there's a small cafe or local tea spot where strangers become friends over a warm drink, or a shopkeeper closes early just because it's sunny outside. There's this quiet belief that life isn't meant to be hurried, and when you start to live that way, it changes you. They don't rush through their days. There's space between tasks, between conversations, and even between cars on the road. This slower pace isn't just about moving less, it's about living more. In big cities, life often feels like a race. Everyone's in a hurry to get somewhere. Phones are always buzzing. Schedules are packed. Sundays in New Zealand are a perfect example. They still feel like Sundays should, calm, simple, and slow. It's about the quiet, the waiting, the fresh air. Some take their kids. Some go alone. Others just sit near the water and chat. It's simple, but meaningful. The act of doing something slow, patient, and calm helps people reconnect with nature, with each other, and with themselves. Many shops close early or don't open at all. People don't panic about errands or chores. Instead, They take the day to relax. Families gather for lunch, couples go for walks, friends meet for tea. There is a strong culture of taking the day off from stress and just enjoying what's around. Fishing is a favorite Sunday activity for many Kiwis. It's not always about catching anything big. Hiking is another common way Kiwis slow down. Meeting strangers here is a whole experience in itself. I remember meeting an older woman while waiting for a bus in a small town. Adjusting to this lifestyle wasn't easy at first. The Kiwi rhythm of life doesn't demand attention. New Zealand teaches you that life doesn't have to be rushed to be meaningful. And once you've lived like that, even for a little while, it becomes hard to go back. The power of doing nothing, mental peace, and minimalism. One of the most powerful things I experienced in New Zealand wasn't a place, it was a feeling. There were moments when I sat for hours just looking at a hill, listening to birds, or watching the clouds move. This idea of slowing down and letting go is part of the culture in New Zealand. I also started to see how little I actually needed. Back home, I always thought I needed more clothes, more gadgets, more everything. But in New Zealand, I was living with just a backpack, a few outfits, and simple meals. And I felt lighter, freer. The less I carried, the more I noticed what truly mattered. A good night's sleep, a friendly conversation, a walk without any goal. That's what minimalism is really about. Not just having fewer things, but needing fewer things. This way of thinking is closely connected to the Maori way of life. The Maori are the indigenous people of New Zealand, and their values are deeply woven into the country's culture. It taught me how to be okay with silence. It showed me that not every moment needs to be filled with activity to be valuable. But once you experience them, they start to feel like the only way to live. You start asking questions. Do I really need all this stuff? Do I really want to be this busy? Remember this, sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing at all. And in that nothing, you might just find everything you were looking for. What am I missing while I'm rushing? Tasty food and people who make you feel like family. The culture here is warm, welcoming, and full of traditions that go beyond what tourists usually see. And when you mix that with local food and honest connections. And one of the best examples is the hangi. A hangi is a traditional Maori way of cooking food using heated stones buried in the ground. This small green fruit is a Kiwi favorite. It has a sweet and tangy taste that's hard to describe, somewhere between a pineapple, a guava, and a mint leaf. Locals eat it straight with a spoon or use it in jams, juices, and even cakes. If you've never tried one, don't be surprised if someone hands you one from their backyard tree and says, "Go on." Have a taste. Meat, potatoes, and vegetables are wrapped in leaves or cloth and placed in a pit oven, where they cook slowly for hours. The result? Soft, smoky, tender food that tastes like comfort on a plate. Eating a hangi isn't just about the meal. It's about community. People gather, share stories, and enjoy the moment together. It's not something you rush, it's something you remember. You get a kind of magic that stays with you long after you leave. These mussels are bigger than usual and have a unique green edge on their shell. They're not just tasty, they're also known to be good for joint health, which many locals proudly talk about, whether steamed, baked, or made into chowder. These mussels are often served at family dinners or beach picnics. Sometimes, the quietest moments are the ones that help us hear ourselves the most. They speak of three key elements: hono, huenua, and wairua. Hono means family, but it's more than just parents and siblings. It includes close friends, neighbors, even travelers who feel like home. It's the idea that people matter more than things, and that strong relationships are the heart of a good life. Huenua means land. A big part of that comes from the Maori, the indigenous people of Aotearoa, the Maori name for New Zealand. Their traditions, stories, and language are deeply respected here. You'll hear Maori words used everywhere, in schools, on signs, even on the news. It's not just about honoring the past. It's about living it in everyday life. Taking care of your spirit is just as important as taking care of your body. And in New Zealand, the environment supports that. Their customs teach about unity, sharing, and the deep link between humans and nature. One of their most special traditions is storytelling. Maori people are natural storytellers. They pass down their history, beliefs, and values through songs, dances, carvings, and words. Even a short story shared over a meal can hold powerful lessons you don't just hear. These stories, you feel them. Quiet forests, wide beaches, clear skies. They all give you space to breathe and be still. But again, it's not just about soil and trees. A family invited me for dinner and we all ate sitting on the floor, passing around simple home-cooked food. No TV, no phones, just laughter and stories. Another time, I met a man who had lived in the same small house for 40 years. He said, "I don't need much. I've got my garden, my dog, and a warm bed. That's enough," and he meant it. There was peace in his eyes that you don't often see in people who chase more. It's about connection to the place you live, the earth you walk on, the nature you rely on. The Maori believe the land doesn't belong to us, we belong to it. That's why they say, you don't own the land owns you. It's a powerful reminder to respect nature, live simply, and not take more than we need. Wairua means spirit, not in a religious way, but in a personal way. It's about your inner world, your peace, your energy. I saw these values not just in books or signs, but in the way people live. Doing nothing taught me more than I expected. It taught me how to listen, really listen, without planning my next words. Living with less, slowing down, being present. These things sound simple, but they're not always easy. New Zealand gave me the space to ask those questions, and the peace to sit with the answers. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed, tired, or disconnected, culture, food, and the magic of local connections, New Zealand isn't just about beautiful views and peaceful living. It is also a place full of rich culture. One of the first things you'll notice about New Zealand culture is how proudly people speak about their roots. The Maori culture is based on respect for people, for the land, and for the spirit. Food is another beautiful part of the culture here. Then there are green-lipped mussels, a seafood dish you'll find only in New Zealand. And let's not forget the whaijoa. One of the funniest things that happened to me was during a community lunch in a small village. I was handed a plate full of food and saw what I thought were boiled eggs. I showed up thinking it would be a formal dinner, performing traditional haka dances with strong beats and chants. Music here has a soul. It tells stories of the land, of love, and of belonging. You don't need to understand every word to feel its meaning. Sometimes it's in the rhythm, the voice, the look in someone's eyes. Instead, it was a barefoot barbecue in the backyard with sausages, salads. One of those moments happened to me in New Zealand. I was in a small town, far from the bigger cities, with plans to take a bus to my next stop. But the weather had other ideas. Dark clouds rolled in. He just sat down, tuned it slowly, and started playing. As he sang, everyone in the room went quiet. Even the rain outside seemed to slow down. I felt something heavy in my chest, not sadness, but something deeper, something that felt like belonging. The tune was soft, slow, and full of emotion. I was part of something, even if just for one night. I felt connected, not just to this kind family, but to the land, the language, the music, the emotion in the room. The sky was clear again, and the roads had reopened. It's the sound of a song that touches your heart. It's the warmth of a stranger's kitchen. It's someone noticing that you're lost and helping without expecting anything back. I thank the family for everything: the bed, the food, the stories, the music. They simply smiled and said, "That's what we do here." No big goodbyes, no big speeches, just quiet kindness. That one song, played in a small living room during a storm, said more to me than any travel guide ever could. Then he started to sing in both English and Maori. You don't need a map to find home. Sometimes, it's where someone makes room for you at the table. That sentence stayed with me long after I left. I didn't understand every word, but I didn't need to. The feeling behind the song said it all. The wind picked up, and within minutes, heavy rain started pouring down. The streets emptied quickly. The bus I was supposed to take got canceled, and I had nowhere to go. My phone had no signal, and all the cafes were closing early because of the storm. I was wet, cold, and completely stuck. during a storm that completely changed the way I saw this country and myself. A man in his 60s noticed me standing under a small shelter. He walked over with an umbrella and simply said, inside, it smelled like fresh bread and would smoke. His wife greeted me warmly and handed me a towel. No questions, no awkwardness. Just calm, simple care. They didn't know me, but treated me like an old friend who had just come back after a long time. You look like you need a warm place. I didn't know what to say at first, but he smiled in a way that felt safe and kind. So I followed him, and homemade pavlova, a famous dessert made with meringue, cream, and fresh fruit. Listen to their stories. You'll find that the real beauty of this country isn't just in the mountains or lakes. It is in the hearts and kitchens of the people who call it home, and invited me to stay the night. We sat around the kitchen table, eating soup and talking about everything, where I was from, what I had seen in New Zealand, and what I thought of their little town. Their grown-up daughter joined us later, and we all sat there, for hours, laughing and sharing stories. It felt like time had stopped. The kids played cricket on the grass while the adults sipped wine and chatted. There were no fancy table settings, no pressure to impress. Just food, laughter, and connection. I left with a full stomach and an even fuller heart. I took a big bite, only to find out they were pickled duck eggs, a local favorite. My face must have shown every emotion in 5 seconds. People here open their homes, share what they have, and welcome you in like you've known each other for years. Whether it's a bowl of soup, a slice of cake, or just a cup of tea, it comes with warmth and honesty. Everyone around me laughed, but not in a mean way. They found it hilarious and shared stories of their own food mistakes. That's how Kiwis are. They laugh with you, not at you. Another time, I was invited to a small gathering by a local family. Music is also a big part of local culture. From street performers playing soft acoustic songs to Maori groups, what I learned is that food and culture in New Zealand aren't just about flavors or festivals. They're about connection. So if you ever find yourself in New Zealand, don't just visit the sites. Talk to people, eat with them. The storm and the song, a moment that changed everything. Sometimes, the most unforgettable moments in life aren't planned. They just happen. When you least expect them. It started as a normal day. That's when something unexpected happened. He took me to his home, a small, cozy house on a quiet street. They gave me dry clothes, made me tea. After dinner, the old man, his name was Peter, went to another room and came back with a guitar. He didn't say anything. His voice was a little rough, but honest. The lyrics spoke about land, loss, love, and finding home in unexpected places. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just a visitor anymore. Later that night, before going to bed, Peter said something I'll never forget. He looked at me and said, the next morning, the storm had passed. That one experience changed everything for me. It reminded me that home isn't always a place. Sometimes, it's a feeling. In a world where people often walk past each other without even looking up, this simple act of care reminded me that humanity is still alive and well, that people still open their doors, share their food, and sing songs that carry meaning. And that's why this country is different. It's not just about the beauty you see on postcards. Every place has its challenges, and New Zealand is no different. While it's peaceful, beautiful, and welcoming, while I've shared how you can live on a budget in smaller towns or rural areas, places like Auckland and Wellington are a different story. New Zealand is far from most other countries. This can be frustrating if you rely on internet access for work or staying in touch with family. If you're someone who needs to feel connected all the time, this might be something to think about. Flights to and from New Zealand can be long and expensive. Earthquakes are a part of life here. Many visitors ignore rules about respecting nature. They leave trash, walk in off-limit areas, or damage fragile spots. Because New Zealand isn't just a dream place, it's a real place. And just like any real place, it has its ups and downs. But for many people, the peace, kindness, and beauty you get here far outweigh the small bumps along the way. Some also treat rural places like open playgrounds, forgetting that real people live there. They're not afraid to speak their minds or take the lead. Many are independent, well-educated, and used to doing things for themselves. That doesn't mean they aren't romantic. They just appreciate respect and balance in a relationship. They look for someone who listens, shares, and treats them as an equal. Wearing fancy clothes or having lots of money doesn't matter as much as being kind and genuine. Locals are kind, but they also care deeply about their land and expect visitors to show respect. It's more relaxed, more respectful, and a lot less stressful. This means they care about how the other person feels, and they aren't afraid to talk about emotions when the time is right. They don't play confusing games or try to be someone they're not. Most of the time, what you see is what you get. If they like you, they'll tell you. If they don't, they'll be polite but honest. It creates a safe space where you feel respected, even if things don't move forward. People don't try to impress you with big words or fake smiles. Instead, they're honest, kind, and usually pretty easygoing. That's what makes it so refreshing. Simple things matter. Cleaning up after yourself, asking before taking photos on private land, and being polite, especially in areas like Wellington and Christchurch. Most of them are small and cause no damage, but stronger ones do happen now and then, causing traffic, noise, and pressure on local resources. Some areas have even started limiting visitor numbers or asking for small donations to help maintain the environment. If you travel here, it's good to keep this in mind. Supporting small local businesses, staying on marked paths, and learning about local customs shows respect and helps keep New Zealand beautiful for everyone. Locals are used to it and know how to stay safe. But if you're new to the experience, it can be a bit scary. The cost of living in big cities can be high, some areas feel isolated, and nature can be unpredictable. But if you come with the right attitude, open, respectful, and flexible, these challenges are easy to manage. There are also other natural surprises, strong winds, heavy rains, and sudden changes in weather. You might wake up to sunshine and end the day in a full rainstorm. Being prepared and flexible is important when living or traveling here, especially if you're coming from Europe, the Americas, or Asia. Once you're inside the country, some areas can also feel very remote. It's not uncommon to drive for hours between towns with little in between. For some people, that peaceful quiet is perfect. But for others, especially those used to big cities or busy lifestyles, it can feel lonely. Rent in these cities can be quite high, especially if you're living alone or close to the city center. It's not unusual for a one-bedroom apartment to cost over $1,500 a month in Auckland, eating out. Fuel and some groceries are also more expensive in the cities. So, if you're planning to live in a major city, your $700 budget won't stretch very far. You'll need to plan carefully or look at shared housing and part-time work to help manage costs. There are still some things you need to know, especially if you're thinking about staying for a while or moving here. It's about moments like this, real, raw, and unforgettable. I left with a full heart and a memory I'll carry forever. And all it took was a storm, a kind family, and one man's song to remind me of the goodness that still exists in this world. Moments that make you feel seen, safe, and strangely at home. I left that town with more than just dry clothes. The flip side, what's not so perfect as much as I love New Zealand, it is only fair to talk about the other side, the parts that aren't so perfect. First, let's talk about the cost of living, especially in the bigger cities. Another challenge is the feeling of isolation. Internet and mobile networks work fine in most cities and towns, but in more remote places, signals can be weak or even disappear completely. New Zealand also faces some natural risks, and while New Zealand is a friendly place, tourists sometimes cross the line without knowing it. There's also a growing concern among locals about too many tourists visiting the same popular spots. In short, while New Zealand has so many wonderful things to offer, it's not a perfect paradise. No, knowing both the good and the tough parts helps you enjoy the country even more. Dating and relationships. The Kiwi way dating in New Zealand feels very different. For many other parts of the world, Kiwi men and women tend to be emotionally aware. Women in New Zealand are confident and strong. Kiwi men are also very chill. They don't usually rush into relationships or try to show off. You won't see many grand, dramatic gestures. Instead, people show love through small acts, cooking a meal, inviting you to meet their friends, or asking how your day was. It's not flashy, but it's real. This respect-driven approach makes dating feel more relaxed. There's less pressure to impress and more focus on building trust. They take things slow and enjoy getting to know someone properly. Many travelers come here with a simple idea: to spend a week or two, maybe a month, and then move on. For many backpackers, the original plan starts to feel small compared to what they find here. I met people who came with a return ticket but never used it. They fell in love with the quiet lifestyle, the open landscapes, and the kindness of strangers. They came on a one-year working holiday visa and planned to travel the entire country. Before going back home, the country has a way of pulling you in gently. It's not about excitement or big cities. It's about how it makes you feel. Safe, seen, at peace. You start waking up with fewer worries. You sleep better. You spend more time outdoors. You talk to people who actually listen. And slowly, without even noticing, you start to imagine a life here. But halfway through, they found a small piece of land for rent and decided to grow vegetables and start a tiny food truck. Today, they run a small organic food business and are applying for permanent residency. We came for the views, Maria laughed, but we stayed for the peace. What began as a short adventure turned into a whole new life. But something about this country makes them stay longer than they expected. The mountains, lakes, forests, and open skies, they don't just look beautiful, they feel alive. Many people say the land speaks to them, not in words, but in feelings. It gives you a sense of belonging, even if you're a stranger. It reminds you that you don't need to do a lot to feel full inside, sometimes much longer. There are still ups and downs, like anywhere else. But what it offers is space to think, to grow, and to change. And for many people, that's exactly what they were missing. You arrive as a backpacker, but if you open your heart to it, you might just find that this peaceful little country becomes a place where you truly belong. Some even end up calling it home. Many travelers find themselves staying far longer than planned. Some come back every year, others never leave. They don't always have a clear reason. They just know they feel better here. They like being outdoors, sharing laughs, and having meaningful chats. If you're looking for someone who's steady, supportive, and respectful, a Kiwi guy might be the right fit. She arrived in New Zealand for a quick 3-week holiday after finishing university. She got a working visa, rented a small cabin. He had been traveling through Asia and stopped in New Zealand just to check it off his list. He stayed in a small town near the beach where he met a group of surfers who invited him to hang out. One thing led to another, and soon he was working part-time fixing surfboards and giving beginner lessons. James never saw himself as someone who'd settle down anywhere, but New Zealand slowly changed him. "I didn't plan it," he said, "but this place made me stop running and never went back to Germany." She told me, "I came here to rest my mind, but I found a life that finally felt right." She had been feeling stressed and unsure about what to do next. She booked a few hostels, planned some hikes, and thought she'd get some fresh air before going back to find a job. But then, something changed. On her second week, she stayed at a small farm in the countryside, where she helped with gardening in exchange for food and a place to sleep. The family treated her like one of their own. They taught her how to make homemade bread, took her fishing, and introduced her to their neighbors. Romance in New Zealand is simple and sincere. Online dating. Apps are popular here too, especially in the cities. Apps like Tinder and Bumble are used, but the vibe is still calmer compared to bigger, busier countries. People don't usually talk loudly about their love lives or post every detail on social media. Relationships tend to stay between the two people involved. This adds to the calm feeling. You're allowed to build something real without the pressure of putting it on display. People are friendly, and the conversations often feel genuine in smaller towns. Dating apps can be a bit funny. Sometimes you'll swipe through the same people over and over again because the population is small. One traveler told me she matched with a guy in a tiny town, only to bump into him at the local bakery 5 minutes later. They laughed about it and ended up having coffee, and it actually led to a sweet short-term romance. There's also a strong sense of privacy in Kiwi culture. Of course, not every date turns into a love story, but even when things don't work out, people are usually kind and respectful. Ghosting is rare, and clear communication is normal. You walk away with your self-respect intact, and sometimes even with a new friend. In the end, dating in New Zealand is about honesty, connection, and mutual respect. It's not about rushing or pretending. It's about being present, being real, and enjoying each step. Whether it turns into something long-term or just a nice memory, you're likely to walk away feeling lighter, not heavier. And in today's world, that kind of dating experience is something truly special. Backpacker to belonger. The unexpected stories. New Zealand has a strange way of changing people's plans. There's something in the air, the land, and the people that makes you feel calm and welcome. Take Sophie from Germany, for example. What was supposed to be a weekend visit turned into 3 months. Sophie ended up finding a job at a nearby cafe. Then there was James from Canada. Another story that stood out to me was Maria and Lucas, a couple from Brazil. These stories might sound rare, but in New Zealand, they're surprisingly common. There's also something deeply emotional about the land itself. New Zealand doesn't promise you a perfect life. So whether it's through a job, a relationship, a piece of land, or just a quiet feeling they can't explain, that's the magic of New Zealand. Work, visas, and life as a foreigner. If you're thinking about staying in New Zealand for more than just a short visit, you're not alone. Many people fall in love with the country and start looking for ways to extend their time here. The good news is, New Zealand makes it possible for foreigners to work and live here for a while, especially through something called the Working Holiday Visa. These jobs are perfect for travelers because they're flexible and often short-term. Being a barista, server, or kitchen helper is common for young travelers. Many hostels offer free accommodation in exchange for a few hours of cleaning, reception, or helping guests. This kind of work is perfect if you're on a tight budget and want to stay in a certain area without spending too much money. Working holiday visas usually don't allow you to take full-time permanent jobs, and they won't lead straight to residency. You can work, but it's expected to be part of a travel experience, not a long-term move. If you want to stay longer or work in a more skilled job, you need to apply for a different visa, like a skilled worker visa or a student visa, depending on your situation. If you enjoy meeting people and have a friendly attitude, bigger cities like Auckland, Wellington, and Queenstown have more opportunities, but they also have more competition. Smaller towns may have less choice, but often come with a lower cost of living and friendlier employers. I didn't need fancy clothes or a big house in busy cities. We're often thinking ahead or looking back. Our minds are full of what's next, what we missed, or what we haven't done yet. But in New Zealand, I learned how to just be. Whether I was hiking, talking to someone, or even doing nothing at all, I felt fully there. Not distracted, not pulled in 10 directions, just present. That kind of peace is hard to describe, but once you feel it, you realize how rare it is. I didn't need a packed schedule or the latest phone. I needed fresh air, good food, kind people, and space to breathe. I needed time to sit quietly, enjoy a sunset, or walk through a forest without looking at my watch. I had less, and yet I felt more. Being flexible about where you live and what kind of work you do can make a big difference. These jobs can be fun and give you a real taste of Kiwi hospitality. It changes how you think about life. It makes you stop and ask simple but powerful questions. What really matters? What makes a day feel full? What do I truly need to feel happy? English is the main language, and most people are helpful and patient with foreigners. People here are used to travelers and migrants. They respect hard work, honesty, and good manners. If you come with a good attitude and are open to trying new things, you'll likely have a positive experience. As long as you're polite and willing to learn, you'll find it easy to communicate and settle in. Working in New Zealand gives you more than just money. It gives you memories, friendships, and a deeper connection to the country. And for many, that's worth more than any paycheck. Some small towns or tourist spots are always looking for extra help during busy seasons, especially in the summer. One of the most common jobs is working on farms. You might pick fruits, plant vegetables, or help care for animals. It's hard work, but it's honest, outdoors, and usually comes with food and a place to stay. We stay busy, rush through days, and fill our time with plans, tasks, and goals. But in New Zealand, things move differently. Life here feels lighter, slower, and more real. People seem more focused on living well than living fast. And after a while, that way of life starts to rub off on you. Plus, it's a great way to meet locals and other travelers. A working holiday visa is one of the easiest ways for young travelers to experience life in New Zealand. It's meant for people usually between 18 and 30, sometimes 35, depending on your country. And it allows you to stay in the country for up to 12 months, or even longer if you're away from. Certain countries, the best part, you can work while you're here. That means you can earn money to support your travels and get real-life experience in a new place. Many people who come on a working holiday visa find jobs that don't require special skills. Another popular option is working in cafes or restaurants. Hostels are also a great place to find work. While these jobs might not make you rich, they give you enough to live simply and enjoy the country. The focus here isn't on earning big money. It's about living well, making memories, and stretching your stay. Most people on a working holiday visa live in shared housing, cook their meals, and spend their free time exploring nature, which helps keep costs low. That said, there are also some limits. Another thing to keep in mind is that some areas have fewer job options. Language is rarely a problem in New Zealand. Overall, life as a foreigner in New Zealand is welcoming. So, whether you're picking apples on a sunny farm, making coffee in a busy cafe, or helping guests at a hostel in the mountains, what this place teaches you about life. Spending time in New Zealand doesn't just show you new places. In many parts of the world, we're taught to chase more money, more stuff, more status. The biggest lesson New Zealand taught me was simplicity. It showed me that I don't need a lot to feel good. Presence was another big gift. Nature plays a big role in all of this. When you're surrounded by clear skies, green hills, and quiet lakes, your mind naturally slows down. They work, but they also rest. They don't chase status, but they care deeply about kindness. They make time for their families, for their friends, and for themselves. They're not in a race. They're not trying to be the best. They just want to live honestly and happily. And when you see that, you start to think, maybe that's what success really looks like. You carry them home. You begin to ask better questions. Do I need this? Maybe you just need less, but in the right way. Less noise, less pressure, less distraction, and more time, more truth, more peace. Does this make me happy? Am I really living or just existing? You feel smaller in a good way, like your problems aren't as big as you thought. The simple joys, you might be asking yourself a big question. Most of us have built our lives around work, goals, and keeping up with the world. No place is, but it offers something rare, a chance to see what life looks like when you slow down. Even just spending time in a place like that can shift something in you. It can help you reconnect with the things that make life meaningful: nature, simplicity, community, and quiet joy. And maybe, just maybe, it helps you see your own life a little differently. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of this life calls to you the most? The nature? The people? The pace? It gives you time to think, space to breathe, and people who remind you that being kind is more important than being impressive. Could you choose peace over pressure, presence over planning, and connection over constant noise? But sometimes it helps to pause and ask, is this making me truly happy? Or am I just following the same routine because everyone else is? Take a walk in fresh air and spend your day doing things that actually matter to you. What if success wasn't about being the busiest person in the room, but about feeling calm, happy, and connected to what's around you? Could I really live like that? Could I leave behind the rush, the noise, and the stress for something quieter, slower, and more meaningful? It gives you examples of how life can be slower, softer, and still meaningful. It shows you that you don't need to be busy to be important. You just need to be true to yourself. And I think it can teach you too. He said, in my younger days, I wanted more. But now, I just want peace. That hit me hard. This land gives so much, she said, but it asks you to slow down to see it. That stuck with me, because it's true not just about land, but about life. Would you be willing to live with less if it meant feeling more alive? You have to slow down to really see what's around you and inside you, because that's not what we're usually taught. We're told to work harder, earn more, achieve more. But what if peace is the real success? What if waking up without stress, spending time with loved ones, and going to bed with a calm mind is what matters most? Nature reminds you that life keeps going. Even when you stop, it helps you breathe deeper, sleep better, and think more clearly. You start to notice things you usually miss: the sound of birds, the smell of rain, the way light changes during the day, talking to strangers, walking without headphones, watching the sky instead of my screen. I was learning to be okay with quiet moments, and in those moments, I found something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. But it's not just nature that teaches you, it's also the people. New Zealanders live in a way that values balance. That's how New Zealand made me feel. I didn't have my full wardrobe, my favorite brands, or my usual comforts, but I felt more joy, more connection, and more clarity than I ever had in my normal life. One man I met in a small town told me something I'll never forget. Another local woman, a retired teacher, shared a simple thought. Over time, I realized I was changing. I wasn't rushing anymore. I was enjoying the small things, cooking simple meals. There's a quote I heard while traveling that fits perfectly. I had less. I felt more. The truth is, you don't have to live in New Zealand forever to learn from it. The lessons stay with you. New Zealand doesn't give you all the answers, but it gives you space to ask the questions. So, if you ever feel tired, lost, or overwhelmed, think about this. Maybe you don't need more. That's what New Zealand taught me. Would you make the move? So, after everything you've heard, the peaceful lifestyle, the kind people, the clean air, what would it feel like to wake up without an alarm? Would you trade your packed schedule for time with friends or a walk in nature? Could you let go of having more things to have more peace instead? These aren't easy questions. New Zealand isn't perfect. You don't have to move there forever to feel the change. So now the question is yours. Would you make the move? Not just to a new country, but to a new way of thinking. You don't have to answer right now, but take a moment to really think about it. And if you've ever been to New Zealand, or even if you've just dreamed of a life like this, because maybe, deep down, we're all looking for the same thing, a place that feels like home, even if it's far from where we started. And sometimes, all it takes is one trip, one experience, or even one story to change the way you see everything. So, would you make the move? Or has a part of you already made it, just by imagining a different kind of life? So here's a question to end with. If your soul had a passport, would it stamp New Zealand as home today? Think about it. Maybe not your body, not your career, not your bank account, just your soul. That quiet part of you that knows when something feels right. Would it choose a place where the air is clean, the people are kind, and the days feel slower but fuller? If you could pack your bags today and live somewhere that brings you peace, where would you go? Would it be a quiet village by the sea? Not just where you go, but why? What is it that you're searching for? Is it space? Is it freedom? Is it stillness? Maybe we're all looking for places or ways to feel more alive. And sometimes, those places aren't found in guidebooks or maps. Sometimes, they're found in stories and people. If you thought this story was powerful, wait till you see what happens in the village where people don't use money at all. No banks, no prices, just trust, sharing, and a whole new way of living. That's coming next in tiny moments that open our eyes and make us pause. Or maybe it is just the feeling of waking up and knowing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. A cabin in the mountains? Maybe a small town like the ones we've talked about, where strangers greet you with smiles and time seems to stretch instead of slip away. Would it settle into a life that feels calm, not chaotic? This isn't just about travel. It's about how you feel inside. It's about growing thoughts, emotions, and maybe even courage. Courage to question how we live and ask if there's another way, a quieter way, a better way. A trip to New Zealand might only last a few weeks, but the peace you feel there, that stays with you. It becomes a reminder of what life could look like if we stopped rushing and started living with more intention. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's turn the comments into a place of real stories, dreams, feelings, and maybe even a few memories. If you've already been to New Zealand, tell us what part of it touched your heart. If you've never been, tell us what part of this story felt most real to you. And no, I'm not asking you to hit like or subscribe. This isn't about growing numbers, because in the end, maybe we're not just looking for places to visit. And if this video made you pause, even for a minute, then maybe it is already working. Oh, and one last thing, but for now, tell me this: if peace knocked on your door today, would you answer? I'll be reading your replies. Let's talk down there.